Welcome to Game Design Hour, the podcast where I interview the people behind the video games you love. On today's episode, I'm interviewing Yves Hohler about his work on the video game 100 Days Winemaking Simulator. Let's get into the interview. So what was the first thing that really sparked your interest in creating video games?
Yeah, that will be a long answer. So I grew up on a winery, and I have two passions in life. One is wine and one is video games. So at a certain point in life, I had a fight with my father. So I left home and I slept 6 months on a couch by a friend. I had no money. I had no idea what I gonna do. So I started making some flash games because that's the only other things I was interested in. Yeah, it was 2007. No, 2009. 2009 was, yeah.
How did you first learn how to create those flash games?
Ugly tutorial online and trying to make stuff. So the first thing I have done is copying games. So trying to copy successful games, trying to seek out tutorials and work on that.
After creating those flash games, how did you first get into the video game industry?
I started to attend conferences like Gamescom in Europe is the biggest one in Köln in Germany. It's Gamescom. We went there and we had so little money that we had to fake it. We make fake journalist IDs so we could have the pass to enter, and then we started talking with people and so on. Yeah.
What made you decide that you wanted to create a game about the process of making wine?
Looking back, even the first prototype I made in Flash was related to wine. It was a winemaking game simulation already back then. Then I made a Corkman. It was like a Super Mario, so jump and run. It was called Corkman because we used a cork from a bottle with legs and arms that was jumping around. So the team wine was present in the background. And at a certain point in 2017, we were talking with a big Italian publisher over a beer, and they told us, why are you not making a winemaking simulator with the knowledge you have inside the studio? We made a lot of free-to-play games, mobile back then. We made two different pitches, three actually, and one was like more Heyday on mobile, so free-to-play Heyday style game. The other one could be the one that we released, and the third one was like more first person realistic graphic wine simulator. So at the end we choose to go with the puzzle simulation style.
So you said before making this game your studio had worked on previous mobile games. What experiences and lessons from those previous projects did you take with you that helped improve your work on this project?
Yeah, a lot, because prior 100 Days Winemaking Simulator release, we had another Steam release that was Atomine. It's a top-down roguelike shooter. And prior of that, we were become the mobile department of Milestone. Milestone is a big company that makes the MotoGP game for console and so on. So we were porting their IP to mobile. And prior to that one, we made some free-to-play games. So every game we made and released bring us further to where we are now. So without the free-to-play experience, we wouldn't become part of the Milestone team to make the mobile department there. Without being part of Milestone, we wouldn't have the money to do Atomine, and without releasing Atomine, we couldn't have done successfully launch on Steam with 100 Days, because a lot of people just think to make a nice game and it will sell, but there is a lot going behind Steam that, for example, if you make a game and just release the page and release the game in the same day, you are not giving time to the Steam algorithm to process the information, and the Steam will not even see that your game is on his platform. So Steam wants to connect the right audience to your game, because so it's money made for everyone. But this process takes time. So if you are not giving the Steam algorithm time to discover your game and understand what kind of audience is engaging with your page, you will have a lot of trouble launching if you don't have insane marketing push, of course.
Mm-hmm. What did you do to market 100 Days?
We hired a person that handled the PR and all the outlet connection, and send them review copies and so on and so on. We are lacking from the point of streamer. We had no connection. This is something we will try to conquer with the next game. We had a Discord channel that grew really good, and we engaged a lot with the Discord community. Reddit was a big part of our success. Twitter was really good. So yeah, that's what we've done.
Did you always plan to tell a story with the game, or was there ever a point that there wasn't a story tied to it?
The story was more intended as a tutorial. So yeah.
After thinking of the idea for the game, what was the first step you took towards creating the game?
Finding the right art. So the thought behind that was, how do the world perceive wine outside of Italy and France and so? And the answer was, it's perceived as French wine. So if you go to America or US, it's changing now, but it's still the French wine is dominating the higher price, the higher end market. So so we tried to find a French aesthetic that could help sell the game, and talk to the player and say, this is a wine game. So yeah, that was the first thing we have done.
What were some of the biggest inspirations behind the game?
2 Point Hospital and Rise of Industry. Yeah, I would say these kind of games.
Were there any interesting ideas that were in the game at some point that just ended up getting cut?
Yeah, a lot of it. Yeah, I would say the game went out with 70% of what we actually would put inside. But we ended up self-publishing, so it's like, yeah, it was part of the deal.
Do you like self-publishing, or do you think next time you're going to work with a publisher?
No, we prefer to go self-publishing. The cut is bigger.
How long did you spend working on the story of the game? I know you said it was more of as a tutorial for the player, but it was still more of a story than some other games' tutorial stories have.
Not that much. It was 3 months, I would say. There was an insane amount of research behind it. There is a lot of historical true facts in the game, in the story. Sorry, and all this research was an insane detailed research. But this was done by the narrative designer. Then the real implementation was not so heavy on the game.
Managing scope is a really important part of game design. How did you work to manage the scope of 100 Days?
Yeah, this is a part we learned this a lot in the in the present in the prior games. So yeah, we know where the limits are. So.
You said you spent a lot of time researching winemaking. How much time did you spend, and what did that research look like?
Yeah, the research on winemaking is, I couldn't sound cocky, but it's 30 years of my life. So I made the winemaking school. I grew up in the winery and so on. So all my friends are winemaker. We are in a winemaking region. So this is part of our day-to-day. But what I was referring to was more on the historical / gossip around this winemaking region. So this is something we try to research a lot. So the narrative designer that was not from this region has to research a lot to nail it down.
So was the process that the player goes through very similar to what the process is for creating wine?
Yeah, absolutely.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
Fixing bugs is another very important part of creating a video game. Were there any strange or interesting bugs you came across while working on the game?
The problem of the bugs is when a lot of players have it, but you cannot reproduce it for many reasons, hardware reason or whatever. And there it gets really tricky. So we are growing a little bit the studio, and one thing we will add sooner is QA, the inside department, QA department.
How large was the team that created the game?
Internally, it was 6, but with external, also with freelancing and external, we were between 15 and 18 person.
What was your biggest challenge while working on the game?
Finding the money to do the game. This was the biggest challenge. So because we were rejected for. We tried the publishing deal at the beginning and it wasn't working. Then we tried with Apple Arcade and they refused. We're not sure. We think because of the alcohol content inside. Then we started to put, as we say in Italian, lunch and dinner together. So we had Epic Mega Grant. We become part of Stadia Maker programs. We took on a publishing deal only for the mobile version, and so on and so on. And smaller deals, we put all the money together to finish the game on our own.
Which parts of the game did you have to put the most time and effort into to get just the way you wanted it?
Naming the ducks, it was the most. No, it was the UI, the user interface is the most, the thing that cost us the most.
Which part of it caused you the most problems?
Everything, everything. No, because this must be coherent from every button, every style, every font style, everything. This was the most, yeah. We have redone the UI 3 times before it was the last iteration.
Are there any fun little details that are in the game that you think most players might miss, but you really like?
Yeah, all the character in the game in the tutorial story mode are based on a real character, inspired by a real character here from the region. There is a lot of details that you will really get it if you really know this wine region. So this is what I'm most proud of, to make a love letter to this wine region here.
The text on screen at the beginning of the game says there is a thin line between courage and stupidity. Are you able to tell me a bit about the significance of that quote to you and the game?
Yeah. It was brought up on an interview that my father gave back in 1995 or something like that, because I'm actually Swiss. I was born in Switzerland, and my parents were the last hippie on earth. And I was the first of four children. They wanted that we grew up on land, on a farmland. So they moved to Italy. They found this rundown house in middle of nowhere. They bought it and it costed all the money they had. They moved to Italy. They couldn't speak Italian. They had no money left. And with this rundown house, there was no heating. And in the winter, there is a half meter of snow. And there was 5 hectares of vineyards. And neither my mom or my dad had any idea how to manage the vineyard or making wine. So this is the thin line between courage and stupidity, because from one point of view, it's something completely nuts doing something like that. With the youngest, my brother, they was 6 months old, so I was 5, and then 5 years it took. They started to make wine without knowledge, and they managed in 5-6 years to to make one of the best Barbera Dusty of the region. So yeah.
What were some of the challenges of creating this game during the pandemic?
Mostly just the mental health and the stress of the team, but we haven't heard so much because we were already a remote working company before the pandemic, so it was a challenge to just let everyone know that if they need something, they just have to ask, and we will try to provide whatever we can.
What game engine did you use to create the game?
Unity. Yeah, it was Unity. We come from a mobile background, so the team is really fluent on Unity.
Do you plan to use Unity on your next project?
We already started, yeah.
Can fans of the game expect more updates and more content in the future?
We are working on DLC, but we don't know if we make it to release it before the end of the year.
Looking back now, what do you wish you could have done differently before the initial launch?
I would change how the story modes interact with the player.
How would you change it?
Making more or less text heavy, maybe, and making a better transition between the gameplay and the talk. So making this part a little bit smoother.
You said you had someone specifically who worked on the narrative for the game. Was this a person who was already part of the team, or did you bring someone else in just specifically to work on the narrative?
we just brought it in.
How was it like to work with this person who was
amazing? She's really talented, and she's really great. She also made I don't know if you have access to GDC Vault. She have done an amazing GDC talk last year about the narrative behind 100 Days. And it's a really, really amazing story what she brings up there.
What was the biggest lesson that you learned from creating this game?
Don't spend so much on UI. That's something that will not happen with the next game.
What would be your biggest piece of advice to a newer game dev looking to get a start in the industry?
Just ask on Twitter, on Reddit. You will find people that are willing to help, and just reach out. There's so many kind person and amazing person in this industry. So yeah, you will for sure find a good mentor out there that is willing to help you.
What's next for you? What are you working on now?
We are working on 2 titles. We remain in the simulation management type of game. One is a much bigger project and will come out, I think, in 3.5 years, 4 maybe, yeah, and one in 18 months, something like that.
Thank you so much for your time. It's been great interviewing you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. And that's how the interview went down. I want to thank you so much for listening to today's episode. If you've enjoyed it and you think a friend might like the show, make sure to share it with them. Also, consider leaving us a review on whatever platform you're listening to this on. Thank you so much for watching. I hope I can see you next time. Bye.